Are you enjoying the content on the channel? If you are, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to, you could also hit the notification bell so you get updated every time we upload a new video to the channel. And thank you for any continued support. What's going on, guys? So I'm a bit late with the next few review videos, but I wanted to wait until I had Adobe Premiere again before I uploaded. So this video today is going to be a review involving my thoughts and feelings on our recent stream of Kingdom Hearts. So to start off, Kingdom Hearts is a huge nostalgia game for a lot of people, including myself. Not just because of the game itself, but because of a lot of the heavy use of Disney and Final Fantasy characters that people already knew and loved, and the interactions you get to have with them. But beyond that, what does the game offer, and what are some of its shortcomings? Well, let's talk about it. So, to start off, let's go over some of the things Kingdom Hearts has going for it. One of the first things it has going for it is nostalgia. I mean, at the end of the day, typically nostalgia is going to be something that is on a con list for me because of how overmarketed and oversaturated everything is with it. Everything has to be, something that's already happened. It's a big marketing tool right now, and I feel like it lacks a lot of creativity at this point. But the thing you have to remember about Kingdom Hearts is the nostalgia for this game is because, well, people played it as a kid, and even if you're going to argue that the game itself is a nostalgia pool, just due to the fact that, well, it has a bunch of characters from PS1 games as well as Disney movies, you have to remember that a lot of the people who played Kingdom Hearts as a kid were still kids when those Disney movies and earlier games came out, so they're not really reliving anything because they're still children. It just has some of their favorite stuff from other things in it, so I think that you can give nostalgia a bit of a pass when it comes to Kingdom Hearts simply due to the fact that, well, it wasn't really as big of a... The market was not oversaturated with nostalgic things. It was more of a... It was Disney's marketing attempt to get into a video game industry, and Square Enix, of course, Disney being as big as it is, was okay with that. And so that's fine. But in terms of the nostalgia factor, it really doesn't come into play as much in this game as I think it would were the game a more modern title. So with that being said, some of the pros of this game are the fact that it has so much Disney and Final Fantasy stuff in it. It's great to get to interact with some of your favorite Disney characters, as well as go through a lot of the Disney worlds. Tarzan, Halloween Town, Hollow Bastion. A lot of these worlds are really, really great. Really fun levels, and you get to interact with characters that, honestly, you never thought you'd see in a video game of this caliber, like Goofy and Donald Duck. So... not only that, but you get to interact with a lot of your favorite Final Fantasy characters in a more updated graphical setting, as well as with your own fan fiction character, which is kind of what Sora is. He's kind of, how else do you explain Disney and Final Fantasy coming together in a single game outside of convoluted plot with hearts and keyholes? So... On top of this, I think the level designs in this game are really, really fun. That being Disney worlds, of course. So a lot of the level designs are really fun. It's fun to go into the Alice in Wonderland world and switch between being big and small and try to figure out what the hell is going on. It's fun to go into the Tarzan world once you've actually learned to swing around on the vines and don't fall off every single time. A lot of the worlds are really fun, and it's fun to go through all the thematics of Disney. The characters are designed interestingly, and even if their motivations don't always make sense, you can still have a lot of fun interacting with them. Donald is a great comic relief character, if not a pain in the ass. Goofy also is rather quippy at times, and it's fun to see Sora interact with Riku. Even the Kingdom Hearts original characters are not really that bad to interact with. Watching Sora interact with the world around him is pretty interesting, and having Riku around from time to time really gives Sora like a motive to do the things he's doing to go throughout the rest of the game. He wants to find his friends, so dangling Riku in front of him over and over again like a carrot is, well, kind of works. Not only this, but the in my opinion, the two biggest highlights of the Kingdom Hearts game. Kingdom Hearts 1, specifically, I was going to say franchise, but more specifically the first game, is the musical score and the combat style. Now, we'll address those each individually. I really enjoy the musical score in this game, as do a lot of other people. I feel for video games, Kingdom Hearts has a pretty iconic musical score. There are a lot of people who have probably heard Simple and Clean that have probably never even played Kingdom Hearts or never even thought about playing it, but they still know the song because it's just iconic. On top of that, a lot of the other music in this game is also pretty great. The main theme in the menu, the overture, the the use of a lot of the world music. It's pretty much what you would expect from Disney and Final Fantasy. Both are very well known for having great musical scores in their movies and in their games independently. So it's pretty much just what you would think would come out of a combination of Square and Disney making a game. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is the combat style. I actually think Square gets a lot of shit for its use of combat styles in a lot of its Final Fantasy games. But when you think about it, they really have not actually missed with that many. Yes, classic purists will tell you that turn-based is the only thing that should be in a Final Fantasy game, but there are a lot of Final Fantasy games that don't have turn-based combat where the combat still works. Final Fantasy XII's Gambit system, tactics being kind of like a chess game is pretty fun, and even some of the more modern stuff like 15 looks like it has a great combat style and system as well. Crisis Core, the combat also works rather well in that game. So Square has had a lot of success with different combat styles, and Kingdom Hearts is just another success to chalk up on that list. I think that there's a certain level of playability to Kingdom Hearts combat style that's appreciable. You can, if you're a simple X button masher, you can set the game on a medium or easy difficulty and you can go for it. If you're playing the final mix and you're a guy who likes a challenge, you can set it on a harder difficulty and the game will expect you to use your, some amount of finesse. You have to block, dodge, or just, get to level 70 and get Leaf Bracer and heal spam your way through Sephiroth. Whatever floats your boat. Anyway, so now that we've got some of the positives of what Kingdom Hearts offered us, let's take a look at some of the more negative things. The first one, I might as well just get it out of the way because I know it's probably going to be the most upsetting for a lot of people. The plot. It doesn't make any fucking sense. You can call me stupid, you can call me an idiot, you can just say, oh, I understand it perfectly. But almost every person I've asked, whether they play Kingdom Hearts or whether they don't play Kingdom Hearts, and I ask them to explain certain specific situations, they're completely incapable of explaining them, or they flat out admit that it doesn't make sense. For example, the 7 Princesses of Heart, somehow 6 of them make a evil Keyblade that unlocks hearts. So you need 7 Princesses of Heart to unlock Kingdom Hearts, but you only need 6 to make a Keyblade? And why do 6 Princesses of Heart make a Keyblade? And why do their pure hearts make an evil Keyblade? Also, if Sora became a Heartless because he had Kairi's heart, and his heart was removed, and that made him turn into a Heartless, the Heartless still would have had a heart, so shouldn't he have not been a Heartless in the first place? And even if you're going to argue that he was, that plays kind of awkwardly into the second game when they try to put Roxas in the game as his nobody, because, yes, technically he turned into a Heartless, but he never really lost his heart. It's very confusing. Even if you can argue that the Kingdom Hearts plot makes sense, it's extremely convoluted and something that most people are not going to be able to grasp with a lot of ease. It's a story that's told very choppily, piece by piece, and honestly, the plot seems more like it's a way to shoehorn Disney and Final Fantasy into being in the same world together, as opposed to just simply being a story told to be a story. That being said, Kingdom Hearts 1 does have an undertone, and there are a lot of thematics in the game that do kind of make sense. For example, Sora is constantly an underdog, being, the second best to Riku constantly throughout a lot of the game, and eventually being able to rise above that into something else. Not only that, but you could argue it's kind of a hero's journey like a lot of games, and there's other thematics that go along and has kind of an undertone to the game as well. There's definitely a strong presence of morals as well as an attempt to separate what is kind of dark, what is kind of light, and what is kind of a gray area, although it's done in a very Disney way. Now, another thing I'm going to talk about is the overuse of the combat system to make up for the depth of level design. While I would say that the combat system and the levels themselves are pluses, I'm going to say that there's a lot of cons that also go along with both of those things. And the simple con with the level design is that a lot of the levels are actually not that big. You spend the vast majority of your time backtracking, with the exception of maybe like Hollow Bastion and the End of the World. A lot of the levels really were not that large. Most of them were just some very small handful of rooms that you went into and then back into later, and then back into a third or fourth time later, till you eventually fought the boss and left. When you put it into that kind of perspective, it kind of makes the game seem a little lackluster, which is where the combat style comes in, is to fill time in that game. Kingdom Hearts, if you played a lot, you probably know that it gives you, in the first game, wave after wave after wave of enemies in a lot of areas. Now, I think the reason for this is mostly due to the fact that, like I said, the level design is small, so to fill out the player's time spent in the world, the best way to do that is to fill the world up with a shit ton of Heartless. And while this, I think, is a smart move on a designer's part, because you have this amazing combat system that's really fun to play, so therefore the time spent filling in the worlds is, well, intelligently done, because, I mean, you're taking what you have done well and you're emphasizing it over the top of something that you did not do as well, to make that thing you did not do as well better. However, I think that if you're a casual player of this game, you can wind up getting burned out on the combat system due to its overuse. Now, the other thing that you could criticize this game for is cheese. However, that's kind of an optional thing. When you fight a lot of the bosses, you could criticize that you can cheese a lot of them. Standing on Maleficent's back, standing on Cerberus's back. Once you have Leaf Bracer, yeah, you can pretty much cheese anything you want. But all that said, that again goes back into your preferred playstyle. If you just want to smash your way through the game, cheesing it is a great option. But it's in the negative section because, well, it kind of does steal from the game a little bit when you can just kind of stand there and heal through everything Sephiroth does. Now, the last two things on this list are probably not going to be, one of them is more of a joke than anything else, but Donald Duck. Donald is a piece of shit in this game. He's such a piece of shit that he's become a meme about not healing people. And while, yes, it's kind of a joke, it's also actually genuinely bad AI. I mean, the guy comes into most fights, almost immediately dies, especially if you're playing on Proud mode. And when he doesn't immediately die and actually does do something, it's how often it's actually helpful, or what he needs to be doing in that situation is pretty rare that Donald actually does what he should be doing. Now, there are a few fights where Donald is actually somewhat helpful, such as the Clock Tower boss, or the Agrabah boss, those bonus bosses. But other than that, Donald is not overly helpful throughout this game, and is kind of a piece of shit that frustrates the crap out of you sometimes, because you have no health, and you go to heal yourself, and Donald heals you immediately afterward, or he heals you right before. And what's even worse is that if you don't heal yourself because you think Donald's going to do it, instead he chooses to cast fire on somebody. He's an absolute piece of shit, and very aggravating to work with at certain points throughout the game. The last thing on the negatives list is grinding in this game kinda sucks dick. And the reason I'll say grinding in this game sucks dick is Kingdom Hearts is not a super grind-heavy game. I'm sure if you probably play a lot of JRPGs, your initial response to hearing me say Kingdom Hearts grinding sucks is, what the fuck? Because it's really not that grind-heavy of a game. But the reason I say it sucks is because there's not enough content in the game to justify the small level of grinding that is there, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So, to get the ultimate weapon in Kingdom Hearts, let's say it's not a game you're super familiar with, and you're just kind of a very casual player who maybe plays it once every few years or something like that, just because the mood happens to strike them. You don't really remember things like how to get ultimate weapon, and then you wind up at the end of the game and go, ah, man, that ultimate weapon sure would be cool. And then you figure out you have to do a bunch of really difficult Heartless challenges to get them. And then you have to go around to each world and do these same challenges that you're barely capable of doing, if at all capable of doing, because you're a casual player, over and over and over and over again. And, to make this worse, if you happen to choose the sword as your starting weapon at the beginning of the game, it fucks you even harder because, well, if we're being honest, you don't really get the item pluses until much higher level. All of the item pluses, the rare loot drop pluses. So makes it kind of difficult to be able to get through a game grinding segment when you don't have all the tools available to you until those tools are inconsequential. But not only that, it's kind of not even worth it to grind for the ultimate Keyblade, because the second best Keyblade in the game is only one less in strength. It's pretty crappy, pretty dog shit. But that being said, there's not really a lot to grind for in this game, and other than that, there's not really a lot to grind to. But I just feel like there should have been maybe a little bit more content to the game, or perhaps the ultimate Keyblade really should not have required quite as many items to get, or perhaps it should have just been significantly better than the previous Keyblade. Now, that being said, another thing that kind of sucks in this game is level grinding a little bit. Not as much, but if you're trying to reach level 99, after a certain point, you get to around 60-ish, and it's like, well, now what? You've kind of beaten all the other bosses, or most of them at this point, perhaps with the exclusion of maybe Sephiroth, then you kind of want to get to level 99, but how do you do that? You just have to go around to the worlds and do shit you've already done, and fight random Heartless mobs. It kind of sucks dick for, 30, 40 levels. It's pretty crappy, but again, that being said, there's not a lot to grind for in this game. There's just not a lot of content to fill out the time that you spend grinding for what little you'd grind for, which in my opinion can create somewhat of a burnout factor. But overall, I really enjoyed playing through Kingdom Hearts. I found it to be an extremely fun experience. I would definitely recommend this game to anyone who has not played it in a while or has never played it at all. It's a pretty fun game, and with that said, that's pretty much the end of the review. The Kingdom Hearts 2 review should be dropping relatively soon, followed by a Xenoverse 2 review. Now, after that, it'll probably be quite a while before we get an FF12 or a Oblivion Elder Scrolls 4 review, but eventually those will probably come as well. Kind of summarizing my thoughts of each game that we have streamed on Twitch recently. I do have plans for some other videos in the meantime. We'll see how those wind up panning out, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you on the next one or on Twitch. Did you enjoy the video? If you did, please make sure to follow us on twitch.tv, where you will be able to see live streams of any game that gets uploaded to the channel, whether it would be a review or highlight clips or both. But not only that, not only can you see the game played live, you can also participate by leaving a comment in the chat with some of your thoughts and ideas based on the game. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a fantastic day.